Hi everyone, welcome to the video lecture series of Theory of Automata and Formal Languages. We are into unit number 5 where we are learning about Turing machine. Okay, in my previous video, I have explained to you the basic introductions to Turing machine, and we have learned about what are the different type of operations being performed, what is the data structure being used in Turing machine. Okay, and we have seen a few points regarding those. Okay, in this particular video we will be learning about the formal description of a Turing machine. Okay, if you are a student right now and if you are pursuing any kind of university examinations, or if you are looking for some exams right now, then I would suggest that this is an important one, because generally they ask you about what is the formal description of a Turing machine. Okay, before constructing a Turing machine. Okay, so before going into this topic, I want just to let you know a few points regarding this Turing machine. Okay, and this Turing machine, actually it was invented, as you know about, by Alan Turing, sir, in 1937, right? And the first hypothetical device that was invented by him was able to compute different type of functions, which are like algorithm basis computable one. Okay, and it was like, before we deal with any kind of Turing machine by means of an universal tool. Okay, describing all the algorithms, we introduced the Turing machine as a universal language definition device. This is a very important terminology, you should know it, that before dealing with any kind of functions or any kind of algorithms for which is based on Turing machine, we introduced this Turing machine as a universal language definition device. Okay, this is an important thing that I was thinking to let you know. And one more thing is that, as I have told you in my previous lecture, that regarding halt and accept, halt and reject. Okay, when does a Turing machine halts? And this is an important question. Okay, a Turing machine generally halts when it is no longer it has no longer any kind of available moves. Okay, that means, suppose I have a to the power n, b to the power n, and after finishing off with b to the power n, I don't have any available moves. Then I can say that the Turing machine halts over there. So if it halts in a final state, it accepts its input, very important thing. Otherwise, it rejects its input. As simple as that. So if you are noting down these points, or if you are writing down these points, so I will just tell you that a Turing machine, okay, halts. Okay, halts when it has no available moves. Correct? And if it halts, okay, in a final state, that is your accepting state, as I've already told you. Okay, the input is accepted. Okay, the input is accepted. Okay, otherwise it is rejected. So I think it's whosoever is viewing this video is clear to you that when Turing machine is said to be halt. Okay, now looking into this is some important points that I've already told you, and you can also note down these points. Okay, now as I've told you that it consists of a head. This is what I've already told you in my earlier lecture, that it consists of a head which reads the input tape. Correct? This is one important line. Then a state register stores the state of the Turing machine. Okay, you might be knowing that, you might be thinking of where this particular states is being stored. Okay, it is being used by a state register, and after reading an input symbol, it is replaced with another symbol, and its internal state is changed, and it moves from one cell to the right cell or left. Okay, depends on which direction you are taking. So if the Turing machine reaches the final state, the input is accepted, otherwise rejected. This same thing I have written, and in terms of halting. Okay, because this terminology being used to be asked by everyone, that when does the Turing machine halts. Okay, that is what the same thing. Okay, now moving to the main part, that is what the Turing machine is formally described. It is described with the help of 7 tuples. Okay, capital Q. As earlier we have studied only capital Q. Capital Q stands for the finite set of states. Correct? then capital X or capital gamma, this is nothing but the tape alphabet. Okay, suppose you are having a to the power n, b to the power n, that it will be read and written over in the tape. So those all input string alphabets will be considered into by using this particular symbol. Then you know about this one, this is nothing but an input alphabet, sigma. Then we are having this delta is the transition function. Okay, now here delta, how it defines the number of states and the number of tape alphabets. Okay, it results in what number of it may be the current state, it may be the next state. Okay, along with the number of tape alphabets and the movement of left or right direction. As I have told you, I have explained this in a same thing as a symbolic representation in my previous lecture, right, where I have told you a comma b comma r. That is, a is nothing but the input symbol that is being read, b is nothing but the symbol, b is nothing but a symbol which has been updated over a, and r or il is nothing but the right or left direction that you are moving. So q naught is the initial state, b is the blank symbol that is already being discussed in the introductory session, and f is the final state, set of final states. It is a very important thing. Directly I cannot say that final f is a final state, set of final states. So these are the 7 tuples being used in order to define a Turing machine. Okay, now if anyone is like looking for some competitive exams and all, this is a very common question. Okay, what is the time and space complexity of a Turing machine? Okay, so time complexity is represented by order of n log n, and space complexity is given by n. Okay, so this is what you can remember it as a part of, like, if you are studying is as a basic part. Now if possible, I will take a lecture where we will be discussing about the space, about the complexity of all the machines. Okay, so if you talk about the production of the machine, it is written in this format. I think production we have already defined in terms of this one. Okay, already we have discussed in terms of state diagram that we have discussed in my previous lecture. Now this particular order is like, if we're looking into the transition part, okay, that is delta represents the q, as I've already told you, q is the number of states and this is the number of input tape alphabet, correct? And then it will result in either maybe the same state or maybe the next state, and this is the part, this is the value or this is the alphabet that is being replaced on over a, and then this is the part which explains you which direction the tape head is moving, either right or left. So this is the general production of format for Turing machine. We will be discussing when we will be in the next upcoming lecture, where we will be discussing how to construct a Turing machine, okay, by using certain languages. Okay, so I think hope it is clear to everyone, where we have discussed about the formal description of a Turing machine, then the time and space complexity, and how the production of a Turing machine is written. Okay, so in the next lecture we will be looking into the different variations of Turing machine, that means the different types you can see, and then followed by the examples will be followed with examples. Okay, so thank you for watching the video. Do subscribe my channel to get the updated videos, and also hit the bell icon, and if you're having any comments or suggestions, please comment down below. Thank you.